Our meeting with a roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Here.
Commissioner Barwick.
Here.
Commissioner Webb.
Here.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Here.
Mayor Absher.
Here. If you'd all stand and join me in the Pledge of Allegiance, please. All right, that brings us to item 3 on the agenda, which is our section for public comments or audience to any visitors, subject to our ordinance 3128. So if there's anyone that would like to address the council, now's the opportunity to do that. Does anybody like to address the council? Okay, seeing none, we'll move on to our consent agenda. So we had items A through J. And first of all, before we have a motion on that, would anyone on the council like A through J, any of those individual items removed from the consent agenda? Anybody from the audience like any of those items removed from the consent agenda, A through J? Okay, if not, we'd entertain a motion.
I'd make a motion that we would accept the consent agenda, A through J.
I'll second.
Okay, is there any discussion on any of these items? Or any questions? Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick.
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin.
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Under new business, item 5 is a proposal that our city clerk and chief of staff have reviewed. And I'll ask Cody to come present that to you. Should have this in your packet under item 5.
All right, so one of the things that Tammy and I had talked about is kind of the process for creating the agendas on a bi-weekly basis. And so one of the challenges that she has in doing that, and this is something that is not necessarily new to her or the position, but it's organizing all the different agenda items as they come in. And so obviously there's internal mechanisms that we try and take to not miss anything or not leave anything off, but there's also some software options out there that make it extremely easy. I don't know if easy is the right word, but more manageable in order to present the agendas not only to you folks, but also to the general public. So a couple weeks ago, I had written, along with Tammy, a memo to all of you in regards to one of the programs that we looked at that could help solve this issue a little bit. And I think the cost of that one was up around $7,000 or so. And it didn't seem that for $7,000 we were getting good value out of what the solution was. So we decided, instead of bringing that solution forth to the council, that we would check out a couple more. And the one that you have in your packet today seemed to be the most bang for the buck. And I don't know how far each individually you want to go with it, but it could be as simple as, instead of having this big paper packet every week, you guys could bring a tablet in and you could have all this stuff outlined on your tablet. You can make notes on there. And I'll let you read through that, and if you have questions, hopefully you had time to review it before tonight's meeting, but if you have questions tonight, I'm happy to answer anything, or Tammy may be able to help with some of those questions as well. But the initial investment for the first year of this program is $5,000, and that includes all the training, setup, everything that we would need. And then the annual investment thereafter is $3,500. This is not a budgeted item, so this is kind of something new that we've identified since we've been here, and since Tammy's been the main clerk, the head clerk. So with that being said, just some of the functionality, each department head would have the ability to log in, submit any agenda item and any documentation into the system. And this is a web-based software system, so it's not like it's per user. There's unlimited users to it. So all of our department heads, along with you all, can upload documents, upload pictures, upload whatever you wanted into your agenda item. It asks for some specific fields that you would need to fill in, or the department heads would need to fill in, and that basically cuts down all the follow-up questions that either Tammy has to ask or I have to ask when someone sends us something. So if you're going to submit, as a department head, if you're gonna submit an agenda item, you're gonna have to have all your information together before you submit that. And so that's one of the biggest time wasters that we have on a day-to-day as we get close to presenting an agenda, is trying to track down some of that vital information. So as far as transparency goes, that's the other big portion to it. It would create a portal within our website. You could access all the agendas, all the meeting minutes, and any documentation that we wanted to include in those items within that portal on our website. So I know, I think the process now, Tammy types up the agendas, sends them out, Terrence uploads them onto our website, and this would kind of not necessarily take Terrence out of it, but it would make his job a little bit easier on that front. As Tammy completes the minutes, completes the agendas, it would automatically pop into that portal without having that added layer of work to be done. As the meeting progresses, she can mark votes electronically, so she'll electronically create her minutes as she goes along. So theoretically, once she gets used to the program, as the meeting wrapped up, she would pretty much have the minutes done at that point, because she'll be able to track those as she goes along. So there won't be a day or 2 day turnaround on creating the minutes. So then once those are created, she would submit them to you all for review, and then it would automatically populate on the next meeting's agenda. So a lot of streamlined processes. That is just the basic overview. It's got more nuts and bolts than that, but happy to take questions if you all have anything
So you
specific.
can access it via home computer, or is that?
Yeah, you can access it from your phone, home computer, tablet, whatever.
Got a question. When she makes the agenda, and let's say like for number 5 on the agenda, will she be able to then load this information into that?
Absolutely.
Without getting
It'll automatically
emails?
be like hyperlinked to it. So then when you pull up your agenda that she sends you, you could click on that, and then it'll pull up the supporting documents to that. Is that your question, John?
No.
Okay.
And I'm sorry I didn't see it in here, but is there a place in there, because I'm sure like myself, we get a lot of questions, comments from the public,
Mhm.
and a lot of times it comes through a cell phone.
Yeah.
Or so, is there a space in there that things can get directed to the appropriate commissioner for whatever?
Yeah, so
Communicate back and forth to the general public?
absolutely, and I think this answers your question, but if not, let me know. So as an agenda is being built, for example, there's different layers of approval that will need to be done. So as we build agenda items, if you're talking about items specifically, as we get into an agenda, that would have to go through Tammy first. She would approve it, and then it would either go to myself or the corresponding commissioner to be included on an agenda. But after the fact, if you're talking about what was covered at a meeting or within the minutes, you could then link a specific agenda item as a reply to an email or a text message or something like that, that a constituent could pull up electronically from their phone.
Mine was more of a question of, in between meetings,
Yeah.
okay, somebody, to Jim, wants to talk about something in their neighborhood.
Mhm.
Is there a way to communicate that directly through this portal, or is it still, we still gonna do it the old?
We'll still have the app like we normally would, but this is mainly for agendas and meetings, and
Okay.
there's also a space online where we can include some important documents as far as applications for different things or within that portal. But as far as a communication apparatus, this is not the intention of that.
Is there any compatibility issues with our server or Terrence's group downstairs?
No, it's all web-based within their portal. We keep all of our information, so if a year down the road we decide that this isn't what we want to do any longer, they don't keep any of our documents. We hang on to all that stuff.
So our final agenda, instead of being paper, would we just log on?
Either or. We can still do paper.
Okay.
That's your preference more than anything.
How's everybody that's gonna be using it feel? You guys pretty pumped about it? I mean, it looks good on paper. I mean, you find it'll be a big time saving for you?
I think it will once we get into it and
Sounds like it.
use it. I know one of the things that they told us during the demo too was the portal that's out on the website for the public will allow the public to search for documents. They can do keyword searches if they want to see when something was approved or look for something. They will have the capability to do that, which could cut down on requests from us. Once they get used to using it, they can get out there and look around and search for what they're looking for. Another thing that was a really good point that they brought up is you can send things to the various users for review. For example, we could have, the city attorney could be a user, and if there was an ordinance or a contract or an agreement or something that he needed to review, he would get an email to the link to be able to take a look at that. So, he doesn't have to actually come up here and get it, or we don't have to run it to his office or email it. It would all be done through this program.
And publicly, who would have access to this? Would this be part of our city's website
Yeah.
as well?
Yeah, so basically we'd create a new web page, and then the best way to put it would be a portal within there. So there would be a web page for, I think there's an agendas page now. So there, within that agendas page, we could upload this information into there, and it would serve as a portal. So then you would log on to that web page, you'd log on to our website, you'd click on city agendas or council agendas, and then it would pull all this information in. It would pull the keyword search in, and then from there you can access all the minutes that are available, all the agendas are available, and then you'd have that keyword search as well. So you could search for, a road, any projects that were related to that road that showed up in agenda or in minutes would then populate for you.
What's your thought, Terrence? You're the IT guy.
Yeah, I mean, it's whatever, makes their job easier. I don't really know a whole lot about it. I mean, I spoke with Cody briefly on it. I know Tammy and him has been after it for many years. I know the agenda has always been a problem with, department heads submitting information, trying to get it out on a timely manner, gathering data. So it's web-based, so it doesn't seem like there's a whole lot to do with me. The web portal portion, be interested in seeing that. As long as you guys have access to your data that you can download and keep when you need it, that's the most important part,
Yeah.
that you own the data
Agreed.
and not let them have it. So other than that, I just need to provide a page and a link is what it sounds like to me.
Yeah.
And I leave earlier on Fridays.
So this will be saved, so if we want to, like an ordinance that we passed 3 weeks ago, we can come in, or 3 meetings ago, we can come in, type in the keyword and pull that up and have access to it.
Yeah, so it's a little different than our codification. So an ordinance that we pass, we send to our codifier now. That's a separate part of our webpage. I've come to know that it's kind of confusing, but anything that showed up in a meeting will be searchable, completely searchable. So if you know something happened on Main Street, you can search Main Street and it'll pull that up. But as far as an ordinance specifically goes, you could see what agenda it was on, when we passed it in the minutes, what the number was, and then you could then take that information, go to our codification and pull up ordinance 4,000 or what.
And this initial price comes with training.
Yeah, that's why the first year cost is a little more. It includes all the implementation, all the training.
Cody, are we talking to anybody else using it? I mean, any other?
So we had reached out, they provided us with a couple of examples, and I think they included some case studies or something like that in your packets. I'd reached out to one of the towns that had used it, and they said that they were very happy with the platform. And like I said, we had checked out a couple of them, and honestly, the one that cost more we thought was the Cadillac until we saw this one, and it ended up costing quite a bit less.
You mean the Lincoln?
I'm sorry, yeah, you're right.
think the press would like this too. I mean, you could always go back and look at what you need to.
Have
Call in.
One question
Yeah.
on the keyword search, is that on only documents that we create electronically? Or all the stuff that we scan wouldn't be indexed that way, would it?
It wouldn't.
Does it have OCR recognition or anything like that?
Well, on any documents that we submit through the system, so mainly our agendas and our minutes.
Okay, so
So then-
anything we would scan, just like as a PDF that might be included in the packet, wouldn't necessarily be searchable unless we indexed it as such.
Well,
That's
yeah.
what Laserfish.
Yeah. So if it was on the agenda, you could then hyperlink to the document that it references, but then that document that you've uploaded to attach to that will not have any kind of keyword search.
But that's where it integrates with Laserfish.
Yeah, it can integrate with
So then it will
Laserfish.
see- So then that will happen. When we do the integration with Laserfish, then they will be able to search it with the keywords
Yeah.
like you're discussing.
And Laserfish is like a digital storage program that we already have that was implemented several years ago, so.
Any other questions? If somebody wants to consider, it'd be up to a motion.
The big question is, do we have the money to do it? That's the first question I want to ask. I don't want to pass them if it puts us in the hole.
Is this $5,000, is it total up front, or is it like a payment plan, or what do they have?
Total upfront.
Don't necessarily think it'll put us in the hole, but it's not.
Well, I didn't mean in the hole, but I'm just saying. We'll have to find it. Well, to me, it sounds like it sounds really good. And if I read through, Port Orange's stuff and other places, I'm sure we'd hear some of the same stuff. I mean, they're talking 8 hours a week. How much do we spend, how much do you spend right now putting all this together? Estimate.
It's spread out over the week, so it's really kind of hard to say because as stuff comes in, then I put it
Right.
on and, and then on Fridays.
Hour a day?
Maybe. And then on Fridays, once we have everything, then
Yeah.
we put it all together and assemble the packets.
And that would go away, right, Cody,
Yeah, so
with this?
that would kind of be created as we go.
As we go.
Right,
And it would be more up to the department heads to
right.
include all that when they submit their item for agenda, rather than, on Friday, we realized, well, we never got that supporting document from so-and-so, and then we have to track that person down, track that document down, wait for the email to come through
Mm-hmm.
in order to submit it. And to that point too, you could submit something for a future meeting as well. So if you know that I don't need to act on it this meeting, I need to act on it next meeting, that department head can go ahead and submit that for approval for the next meeting.
Mm-hmm. Okay. I mean, just myself, I think if you say 5 hours a week,
I think it's
$20 an hour,
Gonna pay
in 1
for it.
year, it's paid for.
I like the
Paid for
idea
itself.
of having all this accessible
Yeah.
from our tablet or a computer.
And you would have the option to print out the paper copy if you wanted, or if you just wanted it electronically, then that would be your option.
And if you ask Tammy nicely, she would probably print out a paper copy for you.
I would absolutely do that for you.
I'd make a motion that we would approve purchasing the Civic Clerk Agenda Management System proposal at a total investment for the first year of $5,000.
Second that.
Any further discussion? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Item 6A has to do with finishing up the carpet project at the Civic Center. Got some invoices there in your packet. And a letter of explanation on this.
This was being paid for from a donation, wasn't it?
I'll let Josh answer to that. I think that answer's correct, but,
Everything up until these invoices has been paid for by donation. These invoices would come out of our building maintenance budget.
I wish I had the old bids.
In going back and reviewing those bids, upon receiving these invoices, they did not include there was nothing itemized in there that said any of the supplies that we were invoiced for through Distinctive Materials.
I guess my thought was if you buy carpet to install, you buy glue, it includes the glue to put it down. It's kind of like buying a car without the tires.
Which we
That's all I'm
apparently did.
saying. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, if it was an oversight, it was an oversight, but
Agreed.
and I know we got two separate bids, one for the installation and one for the carpet itself, material only.
Correct. And the carpet itself was just the actual carpet.
Yeah. Wish I'd have asked that question. It is what it is, guys. I'll make a motion to approve the payment to Distinctive Interiors totaling $13,174.16 for materials used to install a new carpet at the Civic Center.
I'll second that.
any other questions of Josh or discussion on that? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton?
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick?
Yay.
Commissioner Webb?
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin?
Yay.
Mayor Absher?
Yay. Item 7 is a TIF redevelopment agreement. Ordinance.
Any questions on my end? You want me to explain it? You guys had a chance to read through it?
If you guys have questions of Cody, or if you did read it and understand what this is, then it's up to you.
Would you give us a short explanation for
Okay.
the audience anyway?
The developer, Mr. Doug Bradley, has in the process of purchasing some property off of Route 13 and Joe Cannon Way. And since he has established TIF districts already over in Marion Heights, he's going to borrow basically future earnings in those to apply to his eligible costs in this new redevelopment agreement, what this new development agreement covers. So the parcel of land we're talking about is that, for lack of a better word, pit across Williamson County Parkway from Steak and Shake. You with me? On the west side of Williamson County Parkway, north side of Route 13.
Right there on the corner.
Right there on the corner. And then equal parcels of land south of there along Joe Cannon Way. That would run somewhat adjacent to Sam's property, correct?
Correct.
Correct. And then there's
62 acres.
62 acres in total. So the majority of his eligible costs are going to be land acquisition and then filling in that pit to make it developable.
This includes property on the south side, Doug?
Yes.
Is that the property when you turn off of Route 13 going south?
You run right
You run
into
right
it.
into it?
Right.
Okay.
That's all wetland. So we've got floodplain problems. Whatever we fill, we have to go on the same property in the far back and create additional area that will flood, just like the one we're filling. Then any area that's got woods on it is deemed wetland. We've got to go out and find a wetland bank and buy wetland somewhere at a ratio of 3 to 1. So that's why it's set there for 33 years in a TIF.
Who's the existing property owner?
The Rheinbold Limited Partnership there are the heirs of people that lived in Heron, and they're spread out all over the country now.
That's what I thought, and the reason why I'm asking, not sure they can sell that. And here's why I say that. We've had to buy right away off of them several times for 13, and I'm not sure.
I've got clear title. I don't know what you're referring to.
Okay. Interesting.
I need to know if you know something I don't.
Well, I'm starting to doubt myself now. My point was, I always thought it was tied up in the estate and
No,
before.
that's all cleared.
Okay.
We have all that cleared.
Okay. That makes better sense now.
Yeah.
Okay.
Any other questions of Doug or Cody?
So the reason that we're doing this now before he's closed on the property is this is providing collateral for his bank based on his future earnings over in Marion Heights. And then it would go into full effect once he actually closes and takes control of the property.
I have a little question.
Yeah.
The total amount there, and then you've got it broken down by specific things. Are those capped, each one of those, or is it the total that's capped? Can like, for instance, can the site preparation run over by 500,000, that's okay, as long as the total doesn't go over the total?
That's correct.
So each one of those can
Yeah.
go up or down?
Yeah. It's only going to take, would you say, 2 or 3 truckloads of dirt to fill in that pit? It's a joke.
So have you located a wetland mitigation site yet, or you're still searching for that?
Still searching.
You said it's 3 to 1, right?
3 to 1.
For every acre you buy, you gotta replace it with 3. Great country, isn't it?
What's your pleasure, gentlemen?
I'd make a motion to approve ordinance 3548, which is authorizing the execution of the TIF district redevelopment agreement by and between City of Marion and Marion Heights 2 Incorporated.
I'll second that.
Okay, as I've stated before, this one also includes Marion TIF 1, which I have a stated conflict of interest in, and so I will be abstaining from this vote. With that said, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay.
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland.
Yay.
Okay, item 8A, Glenn, are you going to talk about this pump?
Yeah, I can if it.
Well, I didn't know if, I thought you said Glenn was going to talk about it. Maybe I misunderstood. What's this pump for exactly?
Marion serves the refuge's wastewater treatment. We have 3 pump stations out on the refuge. This is the last pump station where it pumps into the city sewer collection system, and it's called Pump Station 4. It's located on the south side of Crab Orchard Lake. We have a 6-inch force main. It's 3,200 feet long. It lies under the lake, comes back out on the other side, and periodically that line, because it's a sag, it goes down and it comes back up and goes again, and because the velocity is not great enough, solids tentatively settle out. After a period of time, you get a big pump, and you got a diesel pump, and you got to push water through there to clean it out. The pump that's in there now pumps 185 gallon a minute. We're going to leave that one pump in at 185. We're buying a new pump at 25 horse that'll pump 314 gallons a minute, which will be great capacity to help scour that line out. And we won't run continuously. We'll have the smaller pump and a larger pump. And the larger pump, we'll let the liquid build up in the wet well as high as we can get it to get enough volume to push the water through that 3,200 feet of pipe, of main. So the purpose of this is to get the big pump in there that'll pump more capacity and higher velocity to keep the pipe under the lake scoured out.
Was this budgeted for, or is this not budgeted for? And if it,
That, Brent and I went over it before he left, but he didn't say, but,
It was not budgeted for.
okay, he told you, he didn't
He
tell
told
me
me it
that.
was not.
Okay.
any idea how we're gonna adjust for that in the budget? Come out of someplace else?
Would need to. I think. I mean, I know he's got.
We could still use the 180, the two pumps is 185 gallon a minute. It costs several $1,000s to rent the diesel pump, suck water out of the lake, push it through the line. It's quite a chore to do that, but that happens about every year and a half, 2 years.
Glenn, is it imperative that we do that prior to Brent coming back, that we could ask him about taking a look at where we might be able to find the funds for that?
Find the fund. Yeah, this isn't a deal that we gotta do tomorrow.
Right.
No, we can
I
wait
think
till
that
he
would be
gets
good.
back and look at, go through the budget, and he might say, I can forego this project and put this one in. He needs to prioritize that.
Yeah, I think so.
Was
But
that your
it
motion
does
to
need-
table it until we can?
I just wanna make sure if it wasn't a necessity, yeah.
It's not an emergency that we'd have to do that tonight.
When was the last time they pumped this water through?
About 9
Cleaned
months
it.
ago, I believe, something like that.
And you're saying once every year, year and a half? Well,
That's what it was last time.
what's the rental on that pump we rent?
Brent said he spent between 3,000 and 4,000 last time. It was all said and
Is
done.
that budgeted for when we do that? Are we swapping
You
dollars?
do that whether it's budgeted or not, because if the pump's stopped up and you can't get sewage through there, you're gonna have to do something.
Yeah.
It's not the case right now.
Well, can this wait 2 weeks until the commissioner can make sure
I
that
don't think it
where
would be
we're,
a crisis that we waited 2 weeks to find out.
because if you're not comfortable with it, I'm sure not comfortable.
I would
with it.
I just wanted to make sure if it's not a necessity tonight, let's just
Now,
double
if the
check it.
pipe stops up within the next week or two, which
Well,
I
then he
don't
rents a
think it will,
$4,000 pump.
a problem if it
then it will be done, budget or no
Yeah.
budget.
You're right, I get that.
Have to.
Yeah.
I get
But
that.
every year in the past, they've always rented a pump to do this.
Not every year particularly. Sometimes it's, first time, I guess it was 2.5, 3 years nearly.
But every time they've needed to do it though,
They
they've
rented
rented
the
one.
pump and they had to make a T and a valve and a connect point, and, it's not a simple proposition.
Yeah, the pump rental's probably 3,000 or 4,000, but it's the labor that we would be saving each and every
Yeah.
time we have to do it. Cause I'm sure it
And,
takes
the bigger pump, and we may have to get a tanker truck and haul water till you pump enough through there to get it completely flushed out. Then you've bought time for another year or two again, see?
yeah.
But that, all that's involved in is just, putting some water in the wet well.
I think that's,
Well, then I'll make a motion that we table this until the next meeting.
I'll
Pending
second
finding
that.
out the,
okay. Do we have to do a roll call on tabling something?
No, I don't think.
I don't think we do we? We call that Mike's rule of order right there, I don't know.
Rewrote the book.
Okay, item 9 then is, paint, apparently.
Yeah, I spoke to our street superintendent today, Doug, and he couldn't make it tonight, but this is basically our paint that we use for striping our roads. Marion's a little different than most towns and counties. We have our own paint rig, which saves us money in the long term, but we do our own striping ourselves, and I think they do a fine job of that. But anyway, this is talk about buying 10 barrels of yellow paint and 6 barrels of the white traffic paint and 6,000 pounds of glass reflective beads. And the total cost, including the freight, is $17,478.20. And this is a budget item, so I would put all that in form of a motion.
Okay,
Second that.
okay, any other questions?
do we know the Pantone color of this yellow?
No, we do not.
Just asking.
Michigan yellow.
Racing yellow.
You were on a mission, I'll give you that. Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton.
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick.
Yay.
Commissioner Webb.
Yay.
Commissioner Steckland.
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay. Before I ask for any commissioner reports, I've got 3 items I want to discuss with you under miscellaneous. One, I had told you that we would have an ordinance on tonight's agenda on these storage containers. probably because we don't have a great process for developing the agenda. That's completely my fault, and I forgot to get it on the agenda. You have been sent a copy of that ordinance, so if you have any questions about it, please get with me or Cody. If you have any suggestions, we basically went out and tried to find a model ordinance on another municipality our size, and that's what we came up with. So we will have that on the next meeting's agenda. Second thing that I handed you all before the meeting, I didn't even make a copy for myself, but looks like this. This is some guidance from the Illinois Municipal League, not on the next meeting's agenda, but on the second meeting in August. I'd like to have this on our agenda. We basically have a binary decision to make at this point, whether we do or do not allow for adult use, what the term is, adult use cannabis sales within the city limits. There's a number of issues at hand there in this 24-page document, including sample ordinances that they either depending on which of those decisions we would make as to how our ordinance might read. So if we accept it, then there's taxation issues and zoning issues to be considered. If we reject it, then there's a model ordinance there that we would have to enact. So my plan is to have a significant, whatever discussion is needed on next meeting, and then whatever that outcome is we'll make one of these two decisions on the second meeting in August. So please, this is the best information that's come across my desk at this point, provided by Illinois Municipal League. I'll ask Cody to also forward you an email that this actually was a linked on. There may be a couple of more resources on there that may be of interest. This basically is it, but I'll have Cody send you guys that email as well. Lastly, is I want to ask you for some comments on one of my favorite subjects in town, which is mowing. Hands down, I get more complaints, comments, and suggestions on this issue more than anything else. It's kind of frustrating because either I get one of two comments: either somebody's mad because we posted their yard to be mowed, or somebody's mad because we didn't post their neighbor's yard to be mowed. It's one of the two. There's one situation that's kind of come up that I'm not completely, I kind of see it both ways, and I just wanted to ask your guidance on it, on how we deal with it. So there's a number of pretty substantially sized, for lack of a better term, commercial lots, but are either in R1 or R2, either residential or mixed residential. I'm talking about lots that are for certain an acre or more in size. Some of them are 5 or 10 or more acres in size. According to code in the past, code department in the past, we have given some degree of leniency there on some of these larger lots. So as long as they would mow back from either any abutting residential piece of property or a street, city street, like have them mow 25, 50 feet, whatever I think it's 25 actually is what we were told today. And then of course they would still have to knock down the other part frequently, but certainly not finish mow it. But to be clear, that's not what our ordinance says. So one, I want to ask what you guys think. And then two, depending on what you guys think, we may need to reword some of our ordinances. I'm just not comfortable coming up with shoot from the hip guidance on this for code. All I know to do is strictly read the letter of it and try my best to give them direction on it, although that may or may not have been what we've done in the past. This particular one, I kind of see it both ways. There's a couple of churches, for example, and I know at least one commercial property that I can think of that it would be very, very expensive for these folks to finish mow it every week or 10 days in order to keep under that 6 inches. That being said, that's what we require by ordinance of everybody else. What do you think? I'd like to know what your thoughts are on it.
I've fielded several phone calls from people, that very same thing. And I'm of the opinion, if it's in residential area, they need to keep it mowed. If you own a house or property, we make you keep it mowed. And whether we want to give them a little more than the 6-inch rule, but just to mow back 25 feet in a residential area, my opinion is it needs to be mowed. If they have several acres of property and, you know, it's so expensive, or maybe they need to sell the property. But I look at it from the people's view that live in the area. They have to keep theirs mowed, and that's my thoughts on it.
Okay. I'd like to hear from each of you, actually, not just,
I kind of agree with John. You know, I see it that it is gonna be expensive. Is there a way we could go halfway? Go a little more strict than what it currently says, but still be reasonable on the, you know, 'cause if you're talking getting a tractor out there and
But then you fall back to, okay, well, the guy who owns his lot in his house and he owns the lot next to him, is he made to keep his mowed like all the neighbors, or is he allowed to let it grow taller since it's a spare lot? You know,
depends on the size. Or does it?
to me, in residential,
Over
it
here.
needs to be mowed. That's my thought.
So these are all in the residential areas, you say?
I would, the ones that have come to my attention when I have looked, I don't know that I've looked every one on zoning, but the ones that I have looked, which have probably been a couple of dozen at this point, have all either been in, either in R1 or R2 or abutting it.
Okay.
So I think, and it's the abutting it, I think that many times is part of the issue, is that you've got a, and this is easy to see if you just drive around, you've got a subdivision, and then right next to it might be a parcel that was intended to be a subdivision, but it's just not been built out yet. And, you know, you've got the same, the issue I think that the ordinance is trying, is not just unsightliness, but you've got rats and mice and snakes and everything else that obviously habitate in this area. And I guess is habitate a word? Did I just make that up? Is habitate a word? All right, good.
Mike's rule.
Mike's rules of order. Anyway,
I think we probably, you know, 25 feet to me is not very far. I think we might need to look at increasing that distance, because I can think of a property over by our subdivision that has a tendency to get unsightly every once in a while. But I think if the property owner makes an attempt to keep it mowed, and I don't mean that to be very loose, what I'm saying is the part that abuts the residential neighborhood or across the street from a residential neighborhood, I could see every 10 days to 2 weeks, 10 to 14 days to mow it. And then the part that adjoins the back part of it, and this, the parcel I'm thinking of is I think maybe a 20-acre tract. Sits across from the condos right there by Lincoln School. There's an attempt to mow the very front of it directly across from the condos, which is fine, but it has a tendency to grow up and not get mowed enough. I think we need to make a better effort to finish mow those, maybe not weekly, but at least every 10 to 14 days to keep it knocked down. And then the larger parcel, I would think at least once a month with a bush hog just to keep it knocked down. Because like you say, and don't get me wrong, I love the wildlife in our neighborhood. We've got a herd of 16 deers that come to our yard nightly, and I enjoy that. But that also brings bobcats and coyotes and everything else. So I think an attempt needs to be made, maybe a stronger attempt than what we've got in place. Those are kind of my thoughts on it.
you haven't spoken out.
Yeah, I would concur with Commissioner Barwick that if it's in residential, we probably need to keep it mowed. It's because we're making everybody else, that has a house or whatever. And I would,
Are you saying in residential or adjacent to? Does that include that?
if it's in residential area, yeah.
I think a lot of these are not in it, but it's,
Well,
It
the moment I
butts up
say
to-
for certainty what I've come
Right.
across, there's gonna be an exception to this. Let's do this then. We've got a little bit of varied opinion on this. I want you to think about this between now and the next meeting, and I'm gonna try to come up with some specific parcels. I'd like you guys to go drive by and just see what I think it will mean more. I wasn't prepared to do that tonight, and I apologize, but I think it'll mean more if you can go look at some of this stuff and maybe see where somebody else is coming from. In a vacuum, yeah, I'd love to see everything finished mode just perfectly and all that, but I just, I think in some of these parcels, it is so expensive for them to get it mowed, and maybe even impractical for
Yeah.
them to find somebody to mow that piece of property with that repetition.
Right.
I think that ends up being the problem. But I also, there again, if we've enacted it, then I have no other choice but to enforce it, and that's why I'm asking you guys. So we'll leave it as it is for now, as it's codified, and I'll tell code enforcement just exactly that. But Cody, will you write that down? Let's get some of these down, specific addresses or descriptions.
Yeah, like a list so I can.
Yeah, just 3 or 4 of them. I want you to look at and see what you think. Same stuff that we look at. Okay, we have any commissioner? I keep missing this every time, so I'll ask for commissioner reports. I know you've got one. Yes, sir. Absolutely. Is it on this issue, this grass issue, or something else?
Not on the grass issue.
Okay. We've had 2 grass issues.
You want to read that while you're reading?
That's you.
Okay.
I just wanted to talk about the animal control that's on the agenda. One of the people is, well, 2 of our employees are here tonight, so I didn't want them to come and not have this talked about.
Okay,
If that's fine with you.
sure.
As
This was in the consent agenda, right?
Yes, it was.
correct, as you know, and maybe you don't, we have 4 animal control employees, 2 full-time, 2 part-time. One of our full-time employees just resigned due to medical reasons, and one of our part-timers just resigned. I believe it was a spouse got a job and maybe moved. So we need 1 full-time employee, and we only have 1 part-timer, so it just makes sense that we offered our part-timer that full-time position, and that would be Ashlyn Strobel, who is here this evening. So I just wanted her recognized.
Come on up. Oh, shoot. Appreciate you remembering to do that.
It's gonna work for me. You have to learn how to get embarrassed once in a while.
Congratulations.
We usually make you say a joke or do a dance or a song. Oh,
Congratulations.
congratulations.
I can read it. I didn't know if you wanted to. That's fine.
Thank you, Chief. I appreciate you noticing that. Thank you. Okay, so commissioner reports. I know you've got one from
Yes.
Aaron, at least.
This was for last week, and I had misplaced it and left it in my truck. This is from the fire department for the month of June. 100 series fires, we had 7 of those. We had, in the 300 series is rescue and EMS, there were 3. In the 400 series of hazardous material conditions, no fire, was 16. Service calls were 11. Good intent calls were 5. False alarm and false calls were 21, for a total of 63 calls. And the most frequent incident was the 700 series, which was the false alarm and false calls. And then, real quick, for the Marion Police Department, year-to-date, we've had 21 DUI arrests, 752 vehicle crashes, 102 warrant arrests. All incidents reported, there were 25,142. 911 calls that the Marion 911 Center actually took was 14,565. 900 abandoned 911 calls. Those are calls that when someone calls in, they hang up before they ever get to talk to the officer or to the dispatch. We still have to follow up on those, have to get back in touch with them to find out what was going on. There were 1,911 dispatched calls, 1,586 ambulance calls, and 78 city ordinance violations. And the narcotics unit had 78 cases opened year-to-date. They've made 49 arrests, 43 weapons seized, and believe this or not, 66 pounds of methamphetamines have been seized, 5 vehicles and $5,631 in cash seized. So the police department, the fire department have been busy and they're doing a great job.
Chief, has there been an uptick in some of this in the last, I don't know, say 45 days or so? Specific to meth arrests?
Yes.
Might coincide with something else that happened about 45 days ago.
No.
No?
You mean?
Has something changed? It seems to me like there's, and it may just be my perception or because I'm paying closer attention. I don't know. Maybe you don't want to speak to it?
Take that for what?
Okay. All right. Never mind.
There has been a big change in the meth store. The shake and bake methods, the one pot cooks, all that stuff is going away. And what we're having now is the crystal ice, and that is being controlled by the drug cartels. So all this stuff is coming from California, and it's just nonstop.
Because there had been a significant reduction in the proliferation of meth just a couple of years ago, right? And now it's just completely turned back around and resurging again, right?
The whole market of it has changed.
Wow.
I would like to add one more thing. I've talked to several of the police officers out at the department, and since the new chief has taken over, they're really excited. It seems to me like that the morale is up, and all the ones that I've talked to said that they were really hesitant in the beginning, but they are really pleased with our choice. I think he's doing a great job.
What do you got, Commissioner?
I have the Water and Sewer Department report. This is the, for the month of June, this is the Julie stats. This is your Julie digs. Anyway, for the month of June, 235 Julie digs were done in the city. 20 were priority 0, which means the city has 2 hours to respond to those, which we did 100% of the time. So anyway, they're very busy. That's a lot of
Sounds
things
like it.
going on.
Webb?
Yes, Terrence handed me a little note here before the meeting, but just letting us know that since 2015, we've located over 17,000 grave sites, and the interns are inputting more. And I say locate, this is the GPS and searchable, so if you're trying to find someone, maybe a loved one or anyone for that matter, it's a searchable, and you can give you a location where they're at in the cemetery. And we're going to be trying to add some photos, and as well as ways of identifying the veterans as well. So really appreciate the hard work on that.
Mr. Patton?
I don't have anything that formal. I can make some numbers up. We keep writing a whole lot of checks from the finance department. No, no. I think we're in good shape. We every month or every week I'm in there signing checks, and I always ask a lot of questions as to who it is and who it's for and why we're paying it. I'm slowly learning some of the bills that are due every week and every month, bi-weekly and weekly, and it's a learning process, and I had no idea we wrote that many checks in a given week, but we do, because I got to sign every one of them.
Okay, we've got it as a placeholder on the agenda, item 11 for a closed or executive session. I've not been made aware of any need for one. Do any of you guys have a need for one? Okay, anything else to come before the council? If not, we would entertain a motion to adjourn.
Make a motion that we adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay, roll call, please.
Commissioner Patton,
Yay.
Commissioner Barwick,
Yay?
Commissioner Webb,
Yay.
Commissioner Stecklin,
Yay.
Mayor Absher.
Yay, thank you all for coming.
Thank you.